Hi, so what I'm going to do today is show you how to install a ladder system. We call it the 300 TAL Larder. Just a couple of safety features to point out when you are installing the ladder unit. When you go over the 300 to the bigger sizes, we do ask for a fifth leg to be installed in line with the front legs, centre position. It just helps support the weight of the cabinet. And as always, a ladder unit should always be fixed to the wall. So that'd be the other one we'd ask. We're going to start with number 1 on the installation guide, and that's installed in the top runner. If you go to drawing A, that gives you all the positions of all the screws and where you need to drill out. The runner fits to the centre point of the cabinet, so let's find the centre point and mark it on the underside. Then we use a square to draw lines from where I've put the mark, so that gives a straight line down the centre of the cabinet to work all the measurements from the positions. Okay, so now we have the centre line draw, we can now put in the positions for the screws and drills. So start off with the first one. So now just use the owl to put the markers into the positions for the first couple of marks that we did. So we're now going to drill the 2 holes for the locators on the back of the top runner. So the reason we always start with the top runner first is if you look in the bottom of the cabinet, you'll see it creates loads of dust, loads of mess, and obviously that would end up being sat in the runner if you'd installed the bottom runner first. These are the 3 countersunk screws we'll use to fit the top runner. We've now can put the 2 pegs into the locator holes that we've just drilled. So now we can put the 3 screws in through the holes to hold it in place. So we're now on to stage 2, and that's installing the bottom runner. We use drawing B for the positions for the base runner. So we start off by getting the centre point of the cabinet, which is 150, and mark it there. So we can now draw the centre line in the cabinet, so then that's what we'll work from. So I'm now going to mark the positions for all the screws. Now we're just going to mark all the positions with a little indentation. Now these are the screws we're going to use to install the bottom runner. So now we just line the runner up over the top of those spike positions that we did. And then we know the runner is in the correct position. Now we have 5 screws to install at the back of the runner. Start by entering the first one. And that's it, that's all the screws installed. So we're now on to section 3, and that's setting up the frame for the correct height to install into the cabinet. Now we take the inside measurement of the cabinet, so we need that to get the correct measurement for the frame. So to get the correct measurement for the frame, you have to take the inside measurement from the cabinet, you minus 139 millimeters, and then you can undo these 2 screws, which are like locking screws. Once you're happy with it set up at the correct height, you then just tighten up these locking screws, and that locks the frame back tight. So we're now on to section 4, and that's installing the door fixings and the frame attachments. Following drawing C, you can get all the positions for your door attachments. The first measurement is 148 millimeters plus your door overlay. So the first position marked is for the door attachment. The second position marked is for a little locator pin, so we just need to drill that piece out. And the same on the top. To get the correct positioning for the uprights on the door, you take the width of the door, you minus the length of the door fixing, and then you divide that measurement by 2. So in our case, with this being a 300 unit, we end up with 31 millimeters on each side for the uprights. So now again with the owl, we'll just mark all the markers for the screw fixings and the drill positions. So we're now just going to drill the holes for the locator pins. These don't need to be very deep because the pins are quite shallow. There you go. that's it, they're done. These are the screws we're going to use to install the uprights and the door attachments. So now we put the door attachment into its location and put the fixing screws in place. So with the uprights, you do have the option where you can install some more screws to hold it in place. So if you've got a split door, you might find that beneficial, but those screws are not included in the pack. So we're now on to section 5, and that's where we install the prepared frame to the prepared door that I've already got laid out on the table. So these are the 3 screws we're going to use to fix the frame to the door. We've got 2 for the frame, and then this one is a final locking screw. This is just lifting the frame up into position. You've got 2 little locations there. There's the first one lined up, and that's the second one lined up too. So we now install the 2 frame fixing screws. And then the final screw we have is the top fixing one, and that goes right into the top. That's it. So we're going to do stages 6 and 7 together because it's the full installation of the frame of the door into the cabinet. Stage 6 is the bottom runner and stage 7 is the top runner. Okay, so to start on the install of the frame, we pull out the bottom runner. So we now drop the frame system onto the runners, just line up those positions. And when it drops down, it'll snap into place. So as you install the frame to the top runner, you guide it into the rollers so it sits in there, and then as you close it, you'll hear a couple of clicks, which is it locking into place. Before we move on to step 8, we advise that you do all the door adjustments at this stage because it just makes everything easier when you come to that final point. So these bottom 2 screws in the bottom of the frame, they're your height adjustments or your tilt adjustments. So I'll show you how to adjust them. So for lateral adjustments, you've got a couple of screws to undo. Undo those 2, slacken off the middle one. You can then move the door across to the position you need it in, tighten them back up. And then you do the same process on the bottom. So the final stage is stage 8, and that's just fixing 1 screw that goes through the frame into the door and holds everything in place. So the final stage is putting this screw through the frame and into the door. Always do it at a location that's close to where the handle is, and on the back of the frame here you can see there's 4 slots, and you pick one of them and screw it through there. And that's it, final screw. When you're installing the baskets, they are quite tight onto the clip, so you do just have to wiggle them a little bit. Once you get it located, to slide down. So you get the brackets to line up nicely, and then locks down into place. So with the basket clip and the basket being fitted this way, it does mean that the basket, as you can see, wraps around that frame system a little bit, so it means you haven't got quite so big a gap between the door and the basket. So we now install the final basket. That's it, final basket installed. We do a couple of different clip designs. So that clip that we've been showing is the Planero style clip, and then we've got these clips as well, which works with all the other basket styles. So I'll quickly show how these work as well. So then when you install the basket on this one, it actually has a little bit of a safety feature because the baskets actually clip. And then once you're down at that point there, it then locks into place. So it means it can't be knocked off or anything like that. So it's quite a good safety feature. So then we have the weight adjuster, which is this piece just here. And in the little slot there, you can see there's different weight positions. So to adjust it, you slide it partway into the system, pull down that runner, pull it forward. And what that does, it changes the position of where the frame grips hold of the runner system. To remove the frame from the runner systems, you just have to slide it slightly in, then pull this adjustment all the way down so you can see clearly all the way through, and then a runner will slide all the way in, and then you can bring the frame system forward. So to remove the frame from the bottom runner, you have to push a button in on the back. You push that in so it unlocks against the pegs and it lifts straight off. For an additional extra, you can get the PAM system, which is a power assisted movement. It's a soft opener that works with any of our TAL Larder systems. I'll show you how to install it. So the first bit to install on the PAM system is the small piece. It goes onto this bottom runner. Line it up with those little squares, and then it locks into place. When you hear that click, that's it locked. And then you install the second part of the PAM system. There's 3 slots on the side of the runner. You line them up with these little clips on the back, and that's it locked in place. That's smooth.